Hello and welcome to the big show. The big show every day at 5 o'clock. We get you ready. Today we'll get you ready for the weekend. We also will look at the week that was, talk a little bit about what's going on with the Steelers, talk a little bit about what's going on in Pittsburgh sports, and obviously I'll keep you updated with respect to the U.S. Open. Um, It is, let's see, we still have a basically relative unknown in J.J. Spaun in first place, Sam Burns in second, and somebody named Tristan Lawrence in third. And hell, if you really want to go, Thomas Detry is in fourth. Basically, what we're talking about is you have Victor Hovland and Adam Scott in fifth and sixth, two guys that maybe some of you have actually heard of, and not that far behind is Brooks Koepka. So you got some guys that, I mean, the bottom line is if you follow golf a little bit, then I think you probably know some of these guys when it comes to um, what they do and what they bring to the table and all that other good stuff. So to me, I mean, I look at it basically, you got to figure out what's happening when it comes to the Open, but that's not what we're going to talk about first. What we're going to talk about first is the Steelers. Everybody is riding high on this wave of the Steelers and Aaron Rodgers. I mean, all of a sudden, people that didn't really want Aaron Rodgers, now all of a sudden they want Aaron Rodgers, right? They love the idea of bringing Aaron Rodgers into the mix. And so to me, when I look at it, I mean, I basically say, the honeymoon has begun. And so because the honeymoon has begun, people are talking a lot about what Aaron Rodgers might do here, how he might do it, all of that good stuff. But the reality is he was allegedly, according to Adam Schefter, he was basically their second choice. Like they were actually more interested in Matthew Stafford. Now, one thing I will say that I don't necessarily agree with is that it is basically a situation with Adam Schefter where he's reporting stuff. And, he's obviously very dialed in. But sometimes I think these insiders take a little bit of a leap of logic on certain things just from the standpoint of, just from the standpoint of they try to always have the cutting edge of news. And, I think that it's important. There's a lot of pressure on them to break news. There's a lot of pressure on them to be an insider, to make lots of money to be an insider. So I understand it. But I think sometimes they just take it a little too far. And, when he says that Justin Fields and Matthew Stafford were basically going to be the first two choices of the Steelers, I might buy it a little bit with Matthew Stafford, but and he says the Steelers were all in with it. I don't buy it for this reason. One, he was going to cost a ton of money, and two, they would have to trade for him. So while maybe they had him on their wish list, I don't necessarily believe, honestly, that Matthew Stafford was a guy that the Steelers were really all that serious about. And especially since he pretty much signed really pretty quickly and got off the market. Really pretty quickly was off the market. So, I mean, maybe they had internal discussions about him. Maybe. But I also think that maybe they didn't. Like, maybe they really took a look at him and said, he's too expensive. He's too expensive. He's a guy that probably is going to cost way too much money. And we can't trade for him. And the reason we can't trade for him is because, the draft capital and everything else it would take, we just don't necessarily think we have. I don't know. That's just me, really. I mean, I feel like, when we look at it from, afar, it doesn't make sense. it doesn't fit with what the Steelers were trying to do and have tried to do and what they want to do. It hasn't, that doesn't fit into anything that we have heard really about what the Steelers were trying to do this offseason in terms of, going out and spending that kind of money. I don't believe it. I don't believe that they were out there, really putting themselves out there. And I think that's, a thing about, the whole thing to me is I always look at these reports and I say, how do they all fit together? How do they all fit together? And how is it that, this fits in with everything we know that was going on with the Steelers prior to, them signing Aaron Rodgers? And I'll tell you, it just doesn't. It doesn't add up. It really doesn't. I feel like it's one of those things where you have to really look at the whole big picture and say to yourself, you know what? The Steelers were not going to spend that much money on a quarterback. They were not going to go and spend that kind of capital to trade for a quarterback. They just weren't going to do that. It's not how they do things. It's not how they've done things this offseason. I honestly think that's the case. And so I don't know that I necessarily buy it when I hear Adam Schefter say, oh, well, Matthew Stafford was the first choice. Maybe. But I have a hard time believing that that is really what they were going to do. And the same thing I would say with Justin Fields. I mean, if they wanted Justin Fields, they could have had him. If they really wanted him, they had first shot at him. If they really, really wanted him, they could have went and got him. They didn't even have to go anywhere. He was already here. And it was pretty clear from day one that they were really just sort of lukewarm on the idea of bringing Justin Fields back, honestly. And I think that's the thing that I look at from this standpoint and just say, I don't think for 1 minute that these stories about Matthew Stafford and Justin Fields are true. I think, honestly, Aaron Rodgers, they settled on him pretty quickly. They signaled him pretty quickly. They wanted to make sure that he was their guy, and they really didn't talk to many other people. I mean, again, they had two guys in their they had two guys that were signed, sealed, and delivered last year. Two guys. So I don't know. It's one of those things where if they wanted one of those guys back, they would have come and got him. And I think that's the key here. I mean, when I read this story. So it's always difficult in my mind. It's always difficult in my mind when I hear these stories, right? Because I know these guys have a lot of pressure to break stories. I know they have a lot of pressure to try and, make news. I know they have a lot of pressure and all that stuff, and it's good stuff. But to me, sometimes these stories are just not adding up. They just don't seem to really add up in my mind. And neither the Justin Fields story or the story about Matthew Stafford fits anything about what, the Steelers were doing. And so I feel like that's always, a very interesting distinction when we talk about it, for sure. That's one of those things where, hey, I can be convinced of a lot of things. I just don't know that I can be convinced of the idea that Matthew Stafford is a guy that the Steelers really were all in on. It just doesn't make sense to me. It really doesn't. So it's just going to be always interesting when you read these kinds of stories. You have to kind of really weigh it versus what you actually know. Ouch. I'm out here in Oakmont, obviously, covering the U.S. Open, and let's go to our good friend John Grattan. John, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes. What is happening? John, obviously, your Plum hockey coach. We'll talk a little bit of hockey, but I know you're a golf guy. Have you made your way out here to the Open yet?
I was out there today for a little bit.
How was it?
It was good. It was good.
Yeah.
It was hot. We played earlier this morning, and we went over for a bit, and now we're at a little thing for our golf outing here. So it was a good day.
Where did you play at?
River Forest. You're familiar with it?
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
There's a course I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah.
And,
they got new owners. They're doing their thing. They're making a comeback. So.
What's what was your impressions about the U.S. Open? I mean, if you were out here today, I'm sitting out here and I'm here, and I'll be here tomorrow and I'll be here Sunday, and whatever. But what were your impressions today?
Well, I mean, it's an impossible course, but yeah. I enjoy watching them look a little more like me. So it's really fun to watch it. It's incredible. I've never played conditions like that. I can't really fathom conditions like that, but it'd be fun to give it a go and see how you stacked up. Because you see guys like Rory. I mean, last time I looked, he was 8 over.
Yeah, he's 8 over. He's in danger right now.
It's incredible to watch, especially the way the tournaments have been going in the other tournaments where they're winning with such incredibly low scores. It's fun to see the course win a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, a guy like Bryson DeChambeau, he's +6, right? You've got a guy, let's see, Phil Mickelson is actually +4. Morikawa is a guy people talked about maybe winning this thing. He's +4.
Yeah.
Scheffler was even about 5 minutes ago. Now he's +3. I mean, it's tough. I mean,
and then the guys at the top of the board are nobody expected.
The course is tough. And that's part of what you say, when I'm looking for Scheffler. Is he outside the cut line now? I refuse to know where he is. I refuse to believe that he's outside the cut line. I mean, if he is,
there's definitely a chance. I honestly don't know. I don't have it in front of me.
It can't be, right? Oh, no, there he is. Okay, he's +4. He's still safely inside.
It's wild to think about.
But it looks like we're going to get out of today with about 3 guys under par, 4 guys under par, maybe. So,
yeah.
I mean, Oakmont is doing what Oakmont does. Tomorrow is going to be, I think, a total disaster because of the weather.
Yes.
But it could, but I'm talking about there's going to be delays. There's going to be, it's going to be one of those things where if they're smart, they'll start it as soon as they can start it.
Yeah.
In order to get it all in, I mean, they could have some issues. And, I do think, would you much rather I'm not supposed to have this on TV here, sorry. Would you much rather have guys that you've never heard of at the top, like right now, or would you rather have guys that...
I mean, I want to see the top guys play, obviously. I want them to make the cut for sure. But no, this is fun. It's what it's all about. So, I mean, that's the beauty of golf.
Yeah, but I can't imagine people that laid $400 to come on Sunday want to see a final pairing of J.J. Spaun and Christian Lawrence.
I would have to agree.
You know what I'm saying? I can't imagine. And honestly, I was looking at ticket prices. That's pretty much what it's going to cost you to get a ticket for Sunday.
Yeah, for sure, if you're buying now. Yeah.
About $4, you know?
Yep.
Maybe the weather hits, people that have Saturday and Sunday tickets decide, I don't want to come back here Sunday after sitting in a sloppy mess all day Saturday. Maybe they put their tickets on the market. Price goes down a little bit, but
if you factor in the weather and who's playing and in contention, that's fair.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's just what I would tell you. I would tell you that. I mean, I think it's one of those things where the weather could be a factor in this thing over the next 2 days, which if you've ever planned a golf tournament, you spend the whole week like this leading up to the golf tournament and hope that It doesn't rain,
No doubt.
So anyway, you've been you've been keeping us posted on the NHL playoffs. There's actually a report this week, though, and I've kind of felt this way that Fenway Sports Group wants to move on from owning the Penguins. I never thought it was a good fit to begin with, and it always felt like they were a distant away, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think a lot of people felt that way. I can't say I didn't feel that way too. It's the rumor mill. I don't know how much I want to say I believe it yet, but I wouldn't be opposed to it. That'd be
You'd
really.
be okay with Mario owning the team again?
I mean, he's a piece of it. Yeah, I like him. I think he's good around the building. I don't know that he's going to be writing the biggest check. But yeah, I mean, I don't think he's a bad person to have around the building. I think it's attractive to a lot of people to have a guy like that around.
Yeah, well, I think that would be interesting to see if that happens.
Yeah.
Who he brings in as his investors, because
that's totally him.
He would need to bring in some big time investors if he was going to be able to do it again. And I guess he could. I know Burkle would be a part of it too, maybe. And
he can certainly afford it.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I think that's one of the biggest things that comes down to for me is just I never felt like Fenway Sports Group really wanted to be a part of owning the Penguins. It just kind of felt like an asset. It was an asset to them.
It was just a weird purchase. It felt weird.
Right.
I don't necessarily have a problem with them in any way, shape, or form, but it always felt odd.
Yeah. Well, I think that's it. So last night, obviously, I mean, you're a hockey guy. You coach hockey. You've been around the game for a long time. You understand it. Last night was a really incredible hockey game, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a fun one to watch. Different lead changes over time. Good goaltending at times and things that made you scratch your head, but that's the NHL playoffs.
It is. I don't know. You've been talking about Florida for a lot in Edmonton. I can make a case that either one of them. It's their, like Florida to me, when they're playing at a level that nobody, I think they're the best team, but Edmonton just seems to have enough firepower to deal with them at times.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you said it perfectly there because, Florida's a team that's just relentless on you with everyone they got, and they're so deep and so consistent in everything they do. And I don't feel that way about Edmonton's team, but their star power is so good and so electric, and the series agrees too because it's tied 2-2. So I'm still going to go and believe in Florida with the longevity of it. I think their team's built for the 7-game haul of it all, and it looks like it's going to go 7 for sure.
Where if they win it, I mean, they've got to be considered one of the all-time great teams, right?
100%. I mean, this has been 3 years running here, longer than that on how well they've played. But I mean, yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the thing about them, I think we talked about before the series. Between them and Edmonton, the biggest difference is the goaltending.
Sure.
But Edmonton. I was going to say Edmonton's both of Edmonton's goalies have had moments where they've kept Edmonton in the games.
Yeah, and that's not a great place to be in. Every game you're wondering who do you go with and who's going to have it tonight, and it's kind of like the quarterback thing. If you have 2 quarterbacks, you have none, and they've been really good at times and really bad at times, and that's got to make decision making hard at this time of year.
I mean, honestly, if you and you've had teams go to the playoffs and all that other stuff, I mean, how much pressure is on a goalie in these in these situations, I mean, when you're playing high-level hockey, and obviously it's even much higher than the high school level, but when you're playing high-level hockey, how much is it just so much on these goalies and I always say that goalies probably are the difference that make hockey different than any other sport because so much of what happens is contingent on the goalie. I mean,
Yeah.
you could win a playoff game if you have a bad quarterback, or if your quarterback doesn't play well. Your defense plays well, and you're able to run the ball, and you get a couple turnovers. If your goalie's bad, I think it's really, 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 really hard to win a playoff game.
Well, yeah. I mean, if your goalie is consistently bad, and in most moments that's tough, but to defend goalies, and I got to speak for them, and I'm not one, never have been one, but it's a lot of what's happened in front of them has to do with their success, and I think that goalies themselves put tremendous pressure on themselves. As a player side of it, I think we get how hard the position is. None of us want to do it as players. And from a player's side, when you're in the locker room and from a team standpoint, the guys are pretty good about that pressure. But goalies, man, they are harder on themselves than anybody, and that's what makes them special at that position because it's a unique one. It's not one everyone wants to do. I've been around the game for 25 years now, and I certainly never want to put the pads on and strap in and get in there. And so it's a unique position. It takes a special person and a special mindset.
What's reasonable to expect a goalie? Obviously, the routine saves you got to make, right? But what if you're at a level like we're talking about here? What would you consider to be? What would you consider to be reasonable to expect the goalie in terms of, some of the tough saves that, change the game?
Yeah, I mean, it's the hardest thing for a goalie is a mindset and being able to put it behind you. And I think, first and foremost, it's playoff hockey, it's Stanley Cup hockey. You're going to get scored on, and it's going to happen. You want a goaltender to make their routine saves, obviously, like you said. But you also want them to be in a position to steal a game. I mean, you look at anybody that's had success, there's going to be moments in a game where you have no right to make the save. The goalie should not make the save, but somehow he does. And you need those plays sporadically throughout. It doesn't have to be something that happens all the time. Sometimes you got to tip your cap, or they're going to get got, and you move on to the next one. But you want them to be able to be in positions to steal one away from somebody, and that'll uplift the whole team and a whole series. And as Penguin fans, we saw that a lot with Fleury and Matt Murray.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting if you think about it. We basically you basically look at a guy like Matt Murray, and there is no reason to believe, honestly, no reason to believe that he wasn't going to be a guy that was a Penguins goalie for how long, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, everybody can look back in hindsight and say we should have kept Fleury, we should have done this, and every team in the league would have made that decision. His upside and his trajectory was sky high, and it's interesting to see what happened to his career.
Yeah, no, it is just interesting, and I think a lot of times the mental side of being, you see some of these goalies that are good, and then all of a sudden they kind of fall apart, and it's a lot of it's mental. So, what do you see? The next game will be in Edmonton, and then of course it's basically now best of three, right? And Edmonton would have 2 games at home. Are we going to get to 7 with this? And what do you see happening in the next game?
I do think it's going to get to 7. I think I see 2 road wins. Both teams have responded well to losing games. The series has been boom, 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 back and forth with the wins and losses, and I think that's exactly what we're going to see. Florida's going to respond well to this one, and I think they're going to take one in Edmonton. And I see no reason to believe that Edmonton's not going to respond the same way if that goes the way I plan. here we are at Game 7 in Edmonton.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing when you look at it. I mean, I hope that that's the case. These have been great games outside of Game 3. These have been great games.
Yeah.
Again, though, John, and I'm not obviously don't know as much as you do about hockey, but just watching these games play out, I think Florida is not only better, they're much better. I think Edmonton is just like they have enough firepower and they've got enough guts that they've kind of figured out a way to make it a series.
I completely agree. I think Florida has been the deepest team in the league. You include anybody in that, they're just the deepest team. They play relentless on you, and I think that's why they're so successful in the way hockey is presented in a 7-game format. If you want to win a series, it's a grind, and they're built to do so.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is Florida looks to me like they're the best team. I'd be remiss before I let you go if I didn't ask you, now that it's actually happened, and we had talked about it a little bit a few weeks ago when you were on. As a Steeler fan, are you happy with the current quarterback situation?
Yeah, I mean, sure. I think from a fan's perspective, not anything analytical. I think I'm going to be entertained every single week to see how this goes and how this operates. And, I'd be lying to you if I said it wasn't cool to see videos of Aaron Rodgers running out in the Steeler uniform. And that's kind of a fan perspective on it. How it's going to go and how it's going to work, we'll see. But I think I'm going to be entertained all year, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is going to be fun to watch for sure. Not nearly as much fun as it is watching Rory McIlroy blow it again. No, I mean, people. The biggest question is, do people think that Aaron Rodgers has anything left? That's the biggest question, right?
I do.
And if you think he's got something left, then as a Steeler fan, you should be, happy with it, right?
Absolutely, and that's the approach I'm going to take on it. I don't know enough or am around it enough to have a real analytical opinion on it, but as a fan, I'm excited to see how this goes.
Well, John, I will let you go to your function or something going on. I appreciate you taking a few minutes.
Absolutely.
And breaking it down, always talking a little bit of hockey, and we'll see you next week.
Absolutely. I look forward to it. Thanks for having me, Paul.
All right, buddy. That is John Grattan, the Plums hockey coach. Of course, has a lot of thoughts on hockey. I don't know if you've watched any of the Stanley Cup finals, but it's been fun. Really fun. A lot of fun, honestly. Really good games. I think 2 really good, experienced teams that have some depth to them. Just one of those things where sometimes you get what you really, really were hoping for in these finals, in these kind of, finals and whatnot. And then sometimes you don't get it, sometimes it's just bad. But I feel like this has been really, really lived up to its billing and made it really fun, actually, to watch the hockey games. Just a little bit real quick about that story. I mean, Fenway Sports Group apparently is looking to maybe get out of owning the Penguins. I've always thought they were sort of carpetbaggers anyway. But to me, I worry about whoever buys the Penguins better have enough money to actually own the Penguins and run them the right way. That's what I would tell you. And I don't know that necessarily the guys that I've heard their names thrown around necessarily do. Honestly, that's what I would tell you. So anyway, just got to keep moving forward and do what we do, of course. And then that, of course, is basically we have to move on. And Monday, hopefully, we will have a lot more to talk about. We'll wrap up the U.S. Open. We will talk some more about the Steelers, probably, about Aaron Rodgers, all the good stuff that we always talk about on this show, and we'll get it done. All right. Have a good night.
Thank you for checking out this content from Post-Gazette Sports. If you watch this video on YouTube, please like the video and subscribe to our channel. For all of the sports coverage the Post-Gazette has to offer, visit post-gazette.com.